Hello everyone. How's everyone doing? Can you hear me? Well, first of all, thanks for joining on this Friday introduction to unit testing. Let me know in the comments you can hear me, you can see me, so that I should be able to. Everything looks fine over here. Okay. So first of all, tell me, where are you logging in from? I'm in Houston, Texas. Still kind of hot out there, around like 90, 92 Fahrenheit. But I want to know where you are coming from. Where are you logging from? So go ahead and type in the YouTube chat where you are logging in from and how did you hear about this live stream. Boston, Massachusetts. Okay, you Boston, yeah. I visited Boston with my family last year. It was awesome. It was really, really good. Charles from India. Hello, Charles. Thank you for joining. Let me see over here. All right. Charles is coming from Udemy course. Well, thank you. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. A little bit of, you can hear. Okay, so Peter is from Boston. Really nice town. I love Boston. We were just there, I think, couple of last year maybe. Yeah, it was really a perfect trip. Food was good. Yeah, we went to, Boston, Boston Commons. I think we drove to Cape Cod. It was really nice. Yeah, everything was perfect over there. The weather was nice. Yeah, excellent. All right, so a little bit about myself. My name is Mohammad Azam, and I do these live stream probably like around every Friday. Sometime we do ask a question or ask me anything. But this time I just want to go over like the really basics of beginner level for unit testing. And we can also cover a little bit of TDD or test driven development. So my name is Mohammad Azam, and you can check out my website at azamsharp.com. I work as a coding bootcamp instructor for a company called Digital Crafts, and I teach web development and I teach AI and machine learning in Python. All right. So I know I don't teach iOS development. Strangely enough, most of the boot camps they teach machine learning, AI, web development because iOS development is a very niche topic. So probably that's why they don't really teach it that much. Win Dot from Philadelphia, thanks for joining. Apart from my blog and apart from what I do, I also run, which you might already know, I also run my own website called um, Azam Sharp School. And this is where I host many different courses and even workshops. You can go to Azam Sharp School to find a little bit more about that. And there are a lot of courses. I mean, there are like around 150 or 160 hours of content. And currently, I'm working on a really nice course, which I really like. This one, the full stack e-commerce app development using Swift UI, Node, Express.js, and Postgres. So this is currently under development, and I'm having a lot of fun with this course because I'm developing the back end as well as the front end. The other thing is the workshops. Now these are live workshops. These are 3-hour workshop over Zoom, and the next one is actually coming up, which is Introduction to Testing in iOS, and we're going to cover unit testing, mocking, integration testing, end-to-end testing, and I have some other workshops also like Superbase. Superbase might be the last workshop for this year. Then I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and then next year we'll have more workshops. All right. Now, you can actually sign up for individual workshops, or you can simply sign up for the annual plan and you get free workshops. So it's up to you. So you already have the link, so I'll leave it there. Let's go ahead and start talking about testing and start talking about what exactly is unit testing and test-driven development in general. So testing basically simply means that you are going to be, where is it? Over here. Whatever code that you're writing, you need to find a way to make sure that it works. All right. And there are many different ways of testing. You can write the code and then you can write the test for it. Or you can use the approach like TDD, also known as test-driven development, where you will write your test first and then you will write the actual code. So let me go back. None of these images are good actually. Super weird. There we go. So you can find a lot of these images for test-driven development, how test-driven development actually works. Here's a good one. You can see that we start with a failing test and then we make it pass. We write just enough code to make it pass and then we refactor. All right. Now the example that I'm going to be using will be super simple. So this this session is for people who have never really done any kind of testing or test-driven development. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and increase the font size. You should be able to see it now. It's pretty big. We have Mohammad Azam from Pakistan. Well, thank you for joining. Well, where in Pakistan? Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad. Where are you logging in from, Mohammad Azam? I was born and raised in Karachi. All right. Okay, so I have this application, which is a Swift UI app. It doesn't really have any test, nothing. And we're going to do like really basic testing of, let's say that if we wanted to create app for a small bank account, we can deposit the money, we can withdraw the money, we can even transfer money between different accounts. All right. And another thing that I'm going to open up over here will be ChatGPT. Why? Well, ChatGPT, I think is really helpful, not for, you're going to see that how I use ChatGPT for testing, but it's just my assistant. I can ask ChatGPT some questions and I'll get the result, I'll get the answer. All right. So the first thing we need to do is to add a testing project. All right. And we're not testing the UI, so you don't even have to worry about the Swift UI code. We're testing the logical parts of the application, meaning, am I able to deposit the money in the bank account? Am I able to withdraw money from the bank account? Am I able to transfer between two different accounts? So I can go to the file, new, target, and I can search for over here test. And you'll see two different options over here, UI testing or unit testing. We're going to select unit testing because we're testing the logic. So we're going to test or select unit testing. Now over here, everything is fine, but over here you can see that it's automatically, and I'm using, by the way, Xcode 16. All right, so this is Xcode 16. Xcode 16, although it just got released, I do find it to be slow, but I do want to use Xcode 16 because that is the release version of Xcode, right? Now over here you have two different options. When you are selecting your testing library or testing system, you have XCTest and you have Swift testing. Swift testing is the one that they just introduced, so that's a new one. So I'm going to select the new one, which is Swift testing, and I'll just say finish. And you'll see that it adds a new target for us, and this is where we can write our test. All right. By the way, if you do have any questions, you can always type it or ask in the chat. All right. All right, so I have this test already written for me. I mean, it's really not doing much. You can see it's just kind of like a placeholder test. But I should be able to run this test. Now, if you have ever used testing in iOS, XC test, then Swift testing is a brand new framework which allows you to write much simpler code to do the same thing. I mean, it's going to test, but now you can do it with much simpler code. All right. So you can see the test macro over here, which is indicating that this function is a test. Now this test is not really doing anything. So let me write a very simple test. Add two numbers. I know, like this is super simple, right? A equals to 3 or 2 or whatever. B equals to 2. Result equals, or we can, so once we have A is equals to 3, B is equals to 2, I know that this is not a bank account, but just to get started, how do we write a test that for a function that we can add two numbers? Well, we can use the expect macro, and expect macro does have a lot of things over here, but expect means that you're asking the test, you're asserting that what it would be, your expectation. So I'm saying basically over here that it will be 5, which is if you say A plus B. I know it's kind of like a stupid kind of a test. It doesn't really make that much sense. But just to show you that how expect actually works, we're saying 5 equals to 5 will be equal to A plus B. So 3 plus 2 will be 5. And I can just click on this button to run this test. Now, what I've noticed is it is a little bit slow when you're running the test. Xcode 16, I think, still has some issues, but we're just trying to write our first test right now. And you can see that it's going to start this simulator. It's not really going to do much with the simulator because we don't really have any user interface. We're just testing the logic itself. All right. So hopefully this test will pass. I mean, it's a pretty simple kind of a test, right? And these kind of tests, if they're so simple, you don't even have to write them. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but the green check mark over here you can see is telling you that the test is actually passing. Okay, that's good, but obviously we're not really here to test numbers, right? We are, or addition, we're over here to test our bank account. So let's go ahead and change this, and let's say that this is our bank account test. All right, so let's remove this test. All right. So what exactly are we testing in the bank account? Well, we are testing that we can deposit into our bank account. All right. Like funds can be deposited. So how do we write that test? So we'll start with the function. This is a test. Deposit funds or deposit into bank account. All right. Now, since this is a test, you must also decorate it with the test macro. That is what makes it a test. And you can see over here, if I remove that, see that check mark thing is gone now. It's not really over here. But if I add the test, see that the check mark comes back. See? So that means that whenever you mark it with a test, that is where we can actually go ahead and, this is going to be a function that is for testing. So how would we write a test that will check that we can deposit money in the bank account? And this is called TDD, or test-driven development, because currently we don't really have any code. I mean, there is no bank account class available. So how would you write your test? Well, I would probably write my test something like this. I'll say bank account, I'll create a bank account. And I think if you are creating a bank account, you probably have to pass in some sort of a balance. And you also may have to pass in the account holder, which can be a person, John Doe. And you probably also have to pass in the account number. That's the important part. How are you? Is this going to be recorded? I'm at work and all. Yes, this is, I think this is on YouTube, so it will be recorded automatically. Yes, Jonathan. Account number. So what account number should I pass in? Whatever. It doesn't really matter. Now you can see that it's complaining. It's complaining everywhere, right? See over there. It's saying that I cannot really find any bank account. What are you talking about? What bank account? And this is the first step in test-driven development. We are saying that we are writing the test first without writing the code. There is no bank account class. But keep going. And this is going to allow you to kind of think about that how your API will behave. So I'm creating a bank account. Bank account will have a balance, account holder, account number. And now I can say, well, I guess if I have to deposit something, maybe there's a function deposit, and I can say 50 over here. And now I can I can say that the bank account dot balance will be 150, and that's my test. So this is going to be my test. All right. Now this test is not going to run. If you try to build it, it's going to give you some errors. Well, it's actually telling you right over here even that there is no bank account. And this process is known as test-driven development. We are writing our test first, and then we can jump onto and make the test pass. Remember the diagram that I showed you right over here? I know it's kind of like small, but see that? This part. We are over here right now. Write a failing test. That's what we're doing right now. We're writing a test that is failing. And it's failing because, well, we don't even have a bank account class or nothing. So maybe we should do that. So test is guiding us a little bit by saying that you should create a bank account class like this. So let me go back to my actual project, not the test project, but the actual project. And I'll add a new folder. I'll call it models. And I can go ahead and new file. And I'll just add a bank account class, bank account. Okay, we'll start with bank account. Why a class? Why not a struct? You can use a struct too. That's perfectly fine. For the functions, deposit, transfer, all of those, you may have to do mutating for those, but you can use a class also. All right, so what things we need in this bank account? Well, we need a balance, I think. That will be a double. We need account holder. That will be a string. We need account number. That will be a string. And we need the initializer. All right, so at least we have a bank account class now. And we need a deposit function, because it's not going to like it if I don't deposit it. So I'm going to say double, just a deposit function. I'm not going to implement this function, but I just have this function, so the test doesn't really complain now that, hey, you don't have a deposit function. Well, now we do. But still, it's not able to recognize it because it's in a different target. Now, one of the things that you can do for telling your test where these classes are is to import, and I think it's called testable import, hello testing. And testable import is that you're importing this target hello testing, which contains the models, like the bank account model, into your test so that you can test it. So that's what we're doing over here. All right. Do you think this test will pass or fail? I mean, now everything is fine, right? I mean, hopefully, and it's at least building correctly. But here's my question to you. Do you think this test will pass or this test will fail? So go ahead and write your answer in the chat, that if I run this test, is it going to pass or is it going to fail? I mean, the test will hopefully run, because if we do have a bank account class now, we do have a deposit function also, but is it going to pass? Looking at the expectation, what what do you suggest? What do you think? Pass or fail? You can write your answer in the chat, and if it's going to fail, then tell me why is it going to fail. All right. You can also look at the model, the bank account. All right. So let's go ahead and run the test. They have a question is from Mohammad Azam. Please make a video for experience required for fresher and experienced developer to get hired in good software house. Which topics are important and also must know for better developers? Okay. Well, I have a lot of courses that you can check out on Adam Shah School. So fail because the deposit is not defined. Yes, so deposit doesn't have any implementation. If I run this test right now, and Shivash Kumar is also saying deposit function doesn't have anything. Okay, so this is basically saying that the bank account, you can see that it's failing right there. It's saying that the bank account balance is $100, but we were expecting it to be 150. So something is going wrong with the deposit function. And if we go into the deposit function, we can actually check that there's really nothing going on. I mean, we didn't even write anything in the deposit function. So let's go ahead and write something in the deposit function. We can say that the balance can be added to the amount, or the amount can be added to the balance. This is a minimum amount of code that this is a minimum amount of code that I have to write in order to get the test pass. And that's the important part of test-driven development, is that you will literally only write very small amount of code because your overall mission is to pass the test. You're over here, write a failing test, write enough code to make it pass. All right. Okay, now let's go back to the test and let's run it again. And this time the test passes. You see that? The green mark, the check mark, you can see that the test is passing. Another question is, I would love to see more Vapor and Hummingbird content. I do Vapor workshops, and I do have a course on Vapor, so that's pretty detailed. But yeah, maybe I'll do that. Probably it will be next year, because October will be the last month for the workshop for this year, and next year I'll start with other stuff. I'll be traveling a lot in November, and December is kind of like, slow season. So I'll probably be back in January and February. So deposit function, good. Everything is passing. All right. Now, here's the question for you, and this is the very important question. What if I had this class, which I built already, right? What if I just copy this class and I go back to ChatGPT and I say, write me test for the deposit function, or write me just test, write me test for the class bank account. And I just paste the class. I mean, ChatGPT will be able to write the test, right? Now, it is going to use XC test probably, because maybe it's not trained on doing that. But you can see that it's typing all the test. I mean, at least most of it, right? So now the important question is that, should we just use ChatGPT and just copy the code and be done with it? Or should we invest time in writing our own test? This is a hard question and a very difficult question to answer, because it really depends the kind of test that you're writing. I can copy this code and I can go ahead and paste it in my test and it will run, right? I mean, it's just using XCT assert. I don't think it will like over here it's using XCT assert. I mean, I can tell it maybe instead of using XC test, please use Swift. I think it's called Swift library, right? Let's see if it have any idea about Swift library. Yeah, I don't, maybe it will not. No, see that? It's just going something else. Or what is it called? Swift testing library? Yeah, I don't think it has any idea. Use Swift testing framework? No, it doesn't have any idea about Swift testing framework, at least not at this moment. Anyway, so the question we come back to is ChatGPT or some AI tool will be able to write the tests for you, and should we just use those tests or should we just write our own tests? Now, there's nothing wrong with ChatGPT or AI generating the code for you. All right, most of the time, or it will generate the right test for you, and these tests will cover a lot of things. But my question to you is, when you're working with models, when you're working with domain, now this is the actual logic, right? I mean, this is not like I'm testing that the color, when you click on it, it turns from purple to green. That's not it. That's the actual logic. If you were building some sort of a banking application, granted that it will be way more complicated, but depositing the money, withdrawing the money, transferring the money, that is the essence of banking. That's the heart of the banking system, right? That's where the money is made. That is a domain. That is a domain. So if you are unfamiliar with the domain, then I would not recommend that you should use test to write. You should use ChatGPT to create the test for you, because you lose the opportunity to understand the domain. All right. If you are in a situation where you understand the domain and you're pretty good at it, then you can use ChatGPT to write the test. But for domain level tests, for logic test, I would not use ChatGPT to write my test. All right. Now I can do a couple of different things. I can say, maybe suggest a better name for the test, right? So I can go over here and I can say, suggest a better name than this. And these kind of things, ChatGPT can kind of help you out. Well, for a test, I guess. Better test name than this. Okay, yeah, see, these are all the different suggestions ChatGPT is telling you. Test add funds to account. I think that's pretty good. Add funds to account, test account deposit. Okay, that's also I mean, it kind of goes with the deposit function. Test. I mean, I don't think we have to say test anymore. Is it starting everything with test? Add funds to account is also fine, you know. So it's kind of up to you. This is fine too. All right. Probably the first letter should be small, right? There we go. Any questions? If you have any question, you can write it in the chat. And I've written actually a very detailed article on sometimes when you're using ChatGPT to write tests, you miss that opportunity. Actually, that's my latest article. I'm going to link it over here, right there. The hidden cost of AI generated unit tests, sacrificing domain knowledge. All right, and I think as you know, as software developers, the domain knowledge, I think, is way more important than anything else. So read this article. I think it's a good article, and it talks about the hidden cost of using AI to write your test. Let's move to a different test now. Function withdraw funds from account. Okay, it will be very similar from, you know, as a deposit function. We're going to mark this with a test because it is a test. we can go ahead and create the bank account. We can use the same bank account, that's fine. And now I can say bank account dot withdraw, and let's withdraw $50. And what do we expect? Well, our expectation after you withdraw $50, balance on the account will be $50 because we started with 100 and now we're 50. Currently, this test is not going to run because we don't have anything called withdraw. So again, we have to go back to bank account and create the withdraw function. Oops. There we go. All right, kind of like a inverse of deposit. We just subtract something from the balance, and that is our withdraw function. Now we can go back and run the test. So now I'm going to run the withdraw accounts function or the test, and looks like it's passing too. Now, one other thing to note over here is that your tests should be independent from each other. So if your test is passing because it ran second, then there's something wrong with the test. So you always have to make sure that your tests are not dependent on each other and they are individual. All right. So we have to make sure that withdraw funds from account can still pass when it is run after account deposit. So one test should not interfere with the other test. And you can see that they are passing. All right. Any questions? All right. Let's move to our third test. Now, the third test is also about withdraw, but this time we are saying that, look at the name of the test, very detailed, right? Check out the name of the test. Test withdraw, okay. Well, I guess we don't really need test anymore. We can just say kind of like this. Throws insufficient funds error when balance is too low. Okay, I mean, that's a pretty descriptive name for the test. Don't you think? It's a pretty good name. All right. So what we are saying is that if you don't have enough money in the bank account and you try to retrieve more amount, then it should throw an exception. So let's go ahead and try to create our bank account with $100. And what we need to do is now we need to say that a particular exception will happen. If I do a bank account dot withdraw and I say $500, keeping in mind that we only have $100 in the bank account, so 500 should cause an error, right? And that is what the test should be doing. Test should be checking that the error has been thrown, all right? And one of the ways that you can actually do that is again using expect, because expect does have a lot of, expect is a macro, attached macro, and you can see that there are a lot of different overloads that you can use. So we're going to use the one where it throws an exception performing something. You see that? That one. So let's go ahead and use it. What kind of exception will be thrown? Well, it might be the budget error, that type. So we don't really have, oh, not sorry, budget error. What is it called? Bank account error. Bank account error. Sorry, there we go. All right. So bank account error dot self. So bank account error will be thrown. We don't have this. What will be the comment? What will be the reason for the exception? Well, so type some really nice reason over here. Well, the reason is that the exception in, you expected the insufficient funds error when withdrawing available balance. And now the actual body that will cause the error. So over here we can say bank account dot withdraw. So this is the part where it will actually cause the error. All right. So you can see a couple of different things. It's complaining. What are you talking about? There is no bank account error. So it won't even compile. It won't even build. All right. It's complaining. So this means that we need to implement bank account error. So let's go back to our bank account. Now you can create a separate class for the bank account error. That's perfectly fine. I can just go ahead and create a simplest bank account error I can do, which is bank account error. We can say that this is type of error, and it will have insufficient funds. That's the only case I will have. Now you can use localized error and all that stuff. I'm just making it really simple right now. Required, double, and then available is this much. So for this particular case, you have to pass in the required amount and the available amount. So required is basically $500. That's what you're trying to retrieve, but the available amount is only $100. So this is definitely going to cause some issues. Let's go back to our test now. Hopefully it's going to now look at bank account error and say that this is available. Let's try to run this test. See if that even runs. Okay, test is running, I think. Let's see what's going on. Okay, but the test is failing. Why the test is failing? Well, the test is failing because the test was expecting the error to be thrown, but there was no error thrown. See, so you can actually test for exceptions also. All right. So over here, we are actually expecting the budget error to be thrown, but it didn't throw. So this means that in our implementation, in our withdraw function, we need to do something to make sure that the error is thrown when we have insufficient funds. So this is for us. We need to figure out how to do that. Well, maybe we can check over here. If the amount that you're trying to withdraw is greater than the available balance, then we can just throw the error. We can say bank account error, insufficient funds, the amount that you're trying to basically withdraw, and the available amount is only balance. Now, since this is throwing error, we have to say throws over here. There we go. Okay, so now we have updated our code to reflect that the withdraw function can also throw an error. With that, let's go back to our test and let's test this out. Okay, so it's not even working because this part is now messing up. See that? The withdraw function, now it's saying that this can actually throw an error. So what if I say throws over here and then just say try over here? Okay. And there we go. So now our test is passing. But test is passing, which basically means that when you start with a balance of $100 and you try to withdraw $500, then the error is actually thrown. And if the error is thrown, the test is passing. So you can test that for errors also, like if the error is thrown, the test will pass. If the error is not thrown, then the test will not pass. But make sure that we run all the tests also. And maybe I need to do something over here also. Let's say that if I put 500 in this test, withdraw funds from the account, will it actually pass or fail? Okay, that's fine. That's okay. So that is actually failing. So that is okay, I think. Yeah, that's fine. And now will it fail or pass? That will pass. Now also make sure that you run all of the tests. Okay, so everything is passing right now. All right. Questions? All right. Any questions regarding any of these things that we discussed? All right. So hopefully you have enjoyed this small session on testing. Testing is a very big topic. Obviously, there are hundreds of books written about it. My philosophy on testing is I only test the things that are important. not every single piece of code that you're writing is important, all right? And there's a really good saying by Kent Beck, you can see right here. Now, Kent Beck obviously is the uh, the person who created, uh, you know, test-driven development, have written books about it. He's considered like the top of the top, when we're talking about testing and test-driven development. And he's saying that I get paid for code that works, not for the test. So my philosophy is to test as little as possible to reach a given level of confidence. And of course, he's not really saying that you shouldn't test anything. He's saying that you should write the test on things that, or for things that you find it to be difficult to understand. And most of the time, those kind of things happens in the domain, especially if you don't know anything about the domain. Like if I'm working with oil and gas industry for, let's say, 10 years, and my new job starts with some sort of a medical insurance company, I have no idea how medical insurance company works. So writing tests to understand the domain would be a great choice instead of using AI tools to generate tests for me. So I know that developers are always like, oh, you need to test 100%, you need to test 100%, but most of the time you don't. I mean, unless you are working on something that is costing a life of a person, or you're sending a human being to Mars or Moon or something like that, that you will, in those cases, you will have a lot more tests than the actual code that you have. All right. So use testing as a tool, where you see fit to write tests for the things that are difficult. And I've seen that when you're working with algorithm related questions or domain level questions, I know that bank account over here that we discuss is kind of like, it's still very simple to implement. But if we were implementing something rather complicated, those logical part of the domain rules, they will be understand much better if we write tests for it. All right. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully you have enjoyed this small live session. Keep in mind that I do live workshops, which are way more detailed. They're like 3 hours long. You can always go to Azam Sharp School and find out the workshops. You can register for these workshops individually, or you can just sign up for becoming a pro member. So pro member, for the yearly plan that I give, they already have the workshops. So that's a good part about pro member, that you get access to all the workshops, and you know you can just enjoy every single thing that I do, all the workshops. All right. So that is pretty much it. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And now you will have a little bit better idea of test-driven development and how TDD works, how to write tests, and what are the most important parts of your application that may require testing. All right. Any other questions? That is pretty much it. Yeah, let me know if you have any other questions. All right. If you have any question, you can write in the chat. Uh, Again, thank you so much for attending. And I will see you in the future. All right.